All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 14 of season 5. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and at Side Action Podcast on Instagram. So, Action, the big Thanksgiving. We actually taped on Thanksgiving, so we already went over our meals. But what did you do with the rest of the weekend? Indiana couldn't get it done, right? They lost
Yeah,
it. Sorry, buddy.
Purdue won, and they
Yeah,
backed into the Big Ten championship. So that was pretty cool. We
that's
didn't
right.
end up going to the game, but my family went down there. Melissa and I headed back north that day. We
Yeah.
skipped out on it.
Yeah, you said it was for the wooden bucket or something?
The oaken bucket, pretty
Yeah.
close.
Okay.
It's an old oaken bucket,
Oh, sorry.
and I think it's like 130 years old or so. And every
Oh,
time they play, the winner gets an I or a P on the chain, and
okay.
then they get to keep the bucket for the year until next year's game, I guess.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that tradition. I
So
mean,
now,
it's no Paul Bunyan's axe or,
yeah,
a little brown jug, but it's the old oaken bucket.
well, Indiana and Michigan State play for the spittoon, some sort of like spit can or something.
That seems
So,
pretty appropriate. Yeah, yeah. It's hawk a loogie in that thing. Get a big hunk of dip in there and start spitting in there.
so now the Boilermakers get their chance at Big Ten championship, where they're 17-point underdogs against the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, the Wolverines took care of Ohio State last week. They looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure how Purdue's going to do. Good luck. Good luck to them.
Thank you.
That's
How
in
was your
Indy?
weekend?
Where's the championship? In Indy?
Indianapolis. Yeah.
Okay. You had a pretty low-key weekend for the most part, as you know. I've been trying to dial it back, try to get back in
Yeah.
shape. Played volleyball 3 sessions over the weekend, and that didn't include that Wednesday session I talked about in the last podcast. So I played a lot last week. Did answer the call on a late night Friday night and a late night Saturday run to get some drinks. So I did give in, but that's okay. All in pretty good. I got another kind of low key weekend. Hopefully, we'll see. And then this huge, we'll have to talk about next week on taping. I've got the big Christmas party week, which is like 3 days of drinking again in Philly. But
Nice.
yeah, can't complain. We did, I know we didn't do as good. We'll talk about the contest. We did pretty good, but in the pick'em, I did very well. I'm still leading in the pick'em, so don't want to jinx myself. But I had a couple of good weeks to roar back to the lead. So got to keep it going.
Very good.
That's right. Well, let's talk about Week 12 in the NFL. I listed a bevy of injuries. I know there's quite a few. And when I do the injuries, there's too many. I'm sorry, Action, but some of them I thought that were important. Let's start with Green Bay. Obviously, Rodgers got knocked out of the game against the Eagles on Sunday night. It sounds like he's going to play. He's questionable with the ribs. I thought for sure it'd be the Jordan Love era now that they're 4-8, but maybe just pride or whatever. They're just trying to. I guess they're technically not eliminated from the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to make it. What do you think about the Rodgers injury?
Well, it could be impactful to the line. I think there's got to be, even with his injury and his poor play this year, it's still going to be a drop off between him and Jordan Love. So just need to figure out whether he's, I haven't read reports recently, but at some point you figure they're going to have to make the change because there's no sense in having Rodgers out there for a losing season.
Right. I read, I'm not 100% sure Chase Young is going to play or not, but he's questionable still, but he could return for Washington. Their defense has been stellar already, so getting him would maybe put him over the top. I do like how they've been playing. Tristan Wirfs for Tampa is out with an ankle injury. They've had trouble. Newsflash, they will jump ahead in the handicap. They didn't do so great in our pick here, but that could be why. Maybe he went out during the game and not protecting Tom Brady in the second half.
Yep, definitely.
Some San Francisco injuries, and we'll talk about this in the handicap. Elijah Mitchell, thanks for coming back for 2 weeks. You're out again with a knee injury. I see that McCaffrey and Jimmy G both had knee injuries, are questionable. I expect them to play. It's just how limited they will be in this big game against Miami, which we'll talk about later. Najee Harris left the game I put San Francisco. Najee Harris for Pittsburgh left the game on Monday night, and then you had a Benny Snell sighting in there, but he's questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play. It was an abdomen injury, which seems to be common throughout some of these ones I saw.
Yeah, Benny Snell came in and looked pretty spry himself. Both of those backs did some damage against the Colts on Monday night.
They did. For Philadelphia, they lost their free safety with an abdomen injury in that game Sunday night. That's Chauncey Gardner-Robinson. Not sure that'll be a huge impact right now, but going forward, I think it could if he's out for a significant period of time. I was looking at this, and I don't know if he's going to be benched. Andy Dalton, I mean, the guy's been terrible. I mean, he's been atrocious, but for some reason, I think they're going to stick with him this week. Have you read any reports that they're going to give Winston another shot?
I haven't seen that, but I mean, it's could roll the dice there, I guess, whichever way they turn up. Can't do much better. So again, we'll talk about it when we get there. But the New Orleans Saints are taking money against their division foe, the Bucs.
They always do. They always do. In Minnesota, Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle, he has a concussion. He's going through the protocol. I'm not sure if he practiced today or not. He's pretty key to their handicap, and he's really good player. In Miami, you've got the offensive tackle, Terran Armstead is out with a pectoral injury. We'll talk about that in the San Francisco game. Aaron Donald, I mean, the Rams, what a disaster this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's questionable with an ankle injury. You wonder if they'll just make a business decision, or he'll make a business decision and not play. You heard anything about him this week?
Yeah, he's out. And I also read that Matthew Stafford is going to be out as well. So hence the large move against the Rams.
I read that Travis Etienne has a foot injury and is questionable in Jacksonville, even though they came back in that game. Jamar Chase and Mixon are still questionable for Cincinnati. For the Bears, they're the Bears. Darnell Mooney and Eddie Jackson are both on IR, so more losses to that team, more reason to fade the Bears. And lastly, I did read that Von Miller, you downgraded him to out in the Buffalo game tonight.
Yeah, he's got moved to IR. I just saw a headline here a couple hours ago.
Yeah. So that's maybe not much. And then biggest news, Deshaun Watson, he's back. He's going to start against Houston, and he's going to have 10 of his victims watching the game. I don't know why everybody keeps talking about that. It's like, I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't care, but you think that if they were watching at home versus in the stands, I mean, are they going to be on the sidelines, like giving the stink eye?
I don't know. I read that as well, but it's going to be interesting to see how he comes out of the gate. Surely he's going to be rusty, and going back to face off against this former team, there's just going to be a whole host of different emotions going on around that game. Yeah, and Deshaun Watson specifically.
Played for almost 2 seasons, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, he's starting for one of my fantasy squads this week to try to get in the playoffs. So let's go. Let's review the games from last week. We had some good picks and some, ones that went the wrong way. But the Jets, we talked about the Jets a lot. The Jets were 4.5-point favorites at home. They turned to Mike White. He played really well. He lit up the Bears for 3 touchdown passes, looked very capable. We do know the Bears defense sucks. But he did what he needed to do and looked pretty good in the start.
Yeah, the Jets were awesome. I mean, they were moving the ball on every possession against the Bears defense. But like you said, it's hard to really take too much away from that, and because it is the Bears defense.
Right. The Bengals also got it done for us. They were 1.5-point favorites on the road. I don't know if this stayed at 1.5 in the end. I can't remember. But in the end, they beat Tennessee. It was a tight game, like kind of what we expected. I mean, Vrabel's teams just keep it close. But, Cincinnati was able to get a touchdown late and keep Tennessee off the scoreboard, to get a 4-point win. They won that game 30-14 or 20-14. So Cincinnati, I mean, big matchup this week, but they've got a really tough schedule actually down the stretch here.
Yeah, definitely. And the Bengals really held down Derrick Henry, which I thought was my biggest takeaway in the game. Only 63 yards rushing for the Titans last week.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Henry only had 38 yards rushing, which has got to be a season low or close to it for him. I mentioned the Jacksonville game just because it was a kind of crazy game. The Jags were 4-point dogs in that one at home. I told you, man, it's something about Jacksonville. I was at strip clubs. I'm telling you, it's a strip club handle. But they were this was a back and forth game. Jacksonville was leading and then gave up the lead and then went for the final drive, scored a touchdown, had the opportunity to tie the game to go to overtime. Instead, they went for two in the win. Great play by Lawrence to Zay Jones, I believe, in the end zone. So 128-27. Baltimore kind of blows an opportunity here because they've got a really soft schedule down the stretch, but they pull even with Cincinnati now. They do have the tiebreak because they won head to head, but kind of a bad loss for the Ravens.
Yeah, and a chance to ice the game late when Gus Edwards fumbled that gave Jacksonville new life. And on the other side, Trevor Lawrence played probably the game of his young career there in the fourth quarter, leading them down on that last minute touchdown drive. It certainly was not something that I expected.
Yeah, me neither. We'll see if that continues against your local team this weekend. We picked the Bucks. We were on the Bucks. We like the Bucks, 3.5. Tom Brady angle. They've won a couple games in a row. Coming off the bye, they looked good early in this game. I mean, they scored. They were up by 7 points in the fourth, but something happened. Maybe it was we were talking about the Wirfs injury. They really did nothing after 7 minutes to go in the third quarter, and they ended up getting outscored. Obviously down the stretch, and gave up that late touchdown, and then the OT touchdown to lose outright 23-17. What are your takeaways from this game?
I mean, I still feel like the Bucks did enough to win. They, again, Todd Bowles just had so many opportunities for them to ice this game late, and they just got super conservative. They took the ball out of Tom Brady's hands and just kept trying to force the run,
Right.
And it didn't work, predictably. They gave the ball back to the Browns, and then even on the last defensive play, they had an opportunity to stop them, and they let Njoku match up against Devin White, probably the worst cover linebacker on the team, and he scored a touchdown to tie it. So, I mean, there was so many opportunities for Tampa to ice that game away and cover for us, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens here going down the stretch. I mean, they're still under 500. They're still leading the division, but hey, don't look now. Carolina could still win the division. Washington was one of our picks too. 4.5-point favorites here at home. I think this number went down to maybe 4 at close, but man, we probably shouldn't have covered this one action. But they were up in this game. It was a tight game. Leave it. Give Arthur Smith and Atlanta some credit. They were just driving late, but Mariota gets a ball tipped and intercepted in the end zone. I mean, I was like feverishly watching this game. I'm like, oh my gosh, are we going to lose this cover? And they did win 19-13 here. So they did bail it out as a big win for Washington, really to stay, and they're in the playoffs as of today. But leave it to Atlanta, man. This team is just bedeviling. Some weeks they just hang in there against tough opponents, and other weeks they stink.
Yeah, it really was a weird game. But I mean, the Washington offense still looks good. Heineke is now, I think, 8-1 against the spread this year as a starting quarterback. And I've noted that Brian Robinson, since he's come back, has really given them another dynamic weapon out of the backfield, over 100 yards rushing last week.
Yeah, he's really good. Seattle, we were on them. They were green. Sorry, Ridgeway, your team failed us. 3.5-point favorites at home. We're thinking coming off the bye. The Raiders, leave it to the Raiders. They're not giving up. Apparently, they win another game in overtime. And more importantly, Seattle, similar situation. A lot of these games were similar. Teams up by a touchdown late, trying to hold on. Most of the teams did not hold on, getting those fourth quarter touchdowns late, and the Raiders scored a touchdown to tie, pushed it to overtime, and Josh Jacobs just ripped off an 86-yard run. He ran for like 223 in the game. He's now leading the league in rushing now, and they win the game outright, 40-34. So that Seattle defense just stunk.
Yeah, 576 yards of offense for the Raiders. Not going to get it done. And that was another demoralizing loss on back-to-back weeks. The Raiders scored overtime touchdowns to beat us.
Yeah, I know. That's rough. So sorry, we're not going to go against the proxy. Never again, proxy. Please. A couple other games we mentioned last week. Arizona, they were 3.5-point dogs at home with the Chargers. And, it was one of these situations where I knew we couldn't trust the Chargers. So it was good we stayed away from this game. But, they were up in this game. I mean, well, they're up early. Then Arizona comes back, takes the lead, and Arizona just blows this game outright. They cover the number, but they lose 25-24. There's obviously a lot of issues with Kingsbury and Murray. A lot of talk this week about, he doesn't trust the scheme, and now Patrick Peterson is talking smack about Murray.
Mhm.
But what can you say? The Chargers, man, they still haven't performed to, our expectations.
Yeah, I mean, not a stellar performance at all. Only sub 5 yards per play offensively, and they really had to scratch and claw to get back in this game. So, I mean, they really should have lost when it comes down to it. It was kind of a miracle win in the end.
Right. I kind of mentioned this already. The Eagles played against the Packers. We had actually on the pod, we talked about taking the Eagles in the contest -7. It got trimmed to -6.5 at close. And really, that was the right number. We talked about the best of the number because in the end, Rodgers was putting up some numbers in the first half. And it was kind of a back and forth game, a very high scoring game. It almost went over in the first half. And then when Rodgers got knocked out, Love did enough to get some points on the board to get it to the 7. So they lose 40-33, but obviously the Birds covered the 6.5.
Yeah, I went to sleep. I gotta be honest, didn't watch the second half.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It was kind of a boring game. But Monday Night Football, your team was kind of an interesting game. The Steelers were 2.5-point favorites at Indy. I did like the Steelers. We didn't end up going with the contest, which is fine. Steelers came out. They were kind of rolling them. It was 16-3 at halftime. They looked dominant. But then a big kickoff in the second half for the Colts. They score a touchdown, they get another score, actually take the lead 17-16 in this one. And then, Kenny Pickett, man, he's doing his thing. Pickens, spreading the ball around. All of a sudden they get the score. And then the end of this game was kind of weird. I mean, you could talk about it. Jeff Monday, he's not Jeff Monday, dude. He doesn't know when to call timeouts. They end up losing the game 24-17. And I'm not sure what was going on at the end of that drive, and Matt Ryan too. You can't give yourself up short of the first down was that fourth down that had happened? At fourth down, right?
No, I don't think it was fourth down because
It was
they
third.
ended up getting an incompletion on fourth down. Yeah, but bad clock management, and I found it hilarious. All the people on Twitter who were going back and rehashing old Jeff Saturday tweets of him calling out other coaches for clock management snafus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what to say. They might be tanked. They might be trying to lose. I don't know.
Maybe. Do you think the Steelers, I mean, they played pretty good. Like I'd say like 3/4 of the game they played well. They had the third quarter they played poorly. But
Yeah.
the first half of the fourth quarter they looked pretty good.
Yeah, the Steelers look great. I mean, I think that Pickett and Pickens have definitely found something offensive connection wise. And with Watt back on the defensive line, I think this team is definitely one that's ascending for sure.
Yeah, I like it. Well, general trends, there's not much to report here. It was a split all down the middle. Underdogs 8-8 with the favorites, unders and totals 8-8 again. Three games did come down to the spread here, so it did boost the percentage up a little bit. But for the most part, man, these numbers are getting really tight.
Yeah, I mean, we always knew that they were going to bounce back to center. It's just only a matter of time. And I still think, though, on the season that unders have a pretty dominant stranglehold. I think I heard one stat today is like 55% unders. So, as bookmakers hear that and the news gets out more in the sports gambling and media space, you got to figure that eventually there's going to be some value on overs here coming down the stretch. So it's just a matter of picking the right spots.
That's right. And same with the underdogs. I mean, for the season, the underdogs have still ruled the day. It's just slowly but surely it's kind of getting back to center. Let's go over this week. Week 13, we've got two teams on bye in the Cardinals and the Panthers. We've got a game tonight that'll start in about an hour or so. Bills Patriots. We remember this game last year when the Patriots in the win game, they held down the Bills. Everybody talked about it, and then the Bills just apparently, they haven't punted in 2 games against them. So the Bills open as a 5.5-point favorite at New England. 44.5-point total. It's down to 3.5 now in the contest, which is pretty attractive because I think it's 4 on the market right now. 44-point total. I mean, it doesn't matter for our listeners. Usually they'll listen tomorrow, but who do you like in this one?
Well, I'm just following some of the sharp money. I think that the Patriots are the side here tonight, going from 5.5 down to 3.5. And you're right, it ticks back to 4 in some shops, but the sharper ones are still showing 3.5. So I don't know why. I think that Josh Allen is still not quite 100%. That's probably one big factor because defensively, New England has performed pretty well this season, and I think that if you're looking that direction, it's likely that New England's defense is going to play well against that Buffalo offense.
Yeah, the defense for the Bills hasn't played well, right? I mean, they haven't stopped anybody lately, especially in key spots. I mean, I do think the Bills are better. The hook is terrible of 3.5 or 4.
Yeah.
So I can see why the sharps are going up based on the numbers. I think the Bills are going to win the game, but we'll see. New England is still in the playoff hunt. They're on the outside looking in. They need to win this game to stay relevant because there's a lot of teams in the mix in the AFC.
For sure.
All right, let's start with the games on Sunday. We've got the Packers coming to the Bears. Always we call it a rivalry game, even though like they had to win like all the games in the 80s to keep up with all the games they've lost in the 90s and 2000s. So the Packers open as a 4.5-point favorite on the road, 42.5-point total. The total's up to 44.5. 45.5 point is the 4.5 is the spread now, same as before. It's all about Rodgers for me. If he plays, you got to go with the Pack. I mean, you have to. He owns the Bears. If he doesn't play, though, which he probably will play, does that change your handicap in this game with the 4.5?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I pulled up the injury report here, and they're listing Rodgers as probable.
Okay.
They're also listing Justin Fields as probable, which I thought
What?
was kind of curious because, I mean, I saw a report come out today that he was full practice, and now I'm reading probable with a dislocated left shoulder and partially torn ligament. And
Yeah.
it's expected that he'll line up for Sunday's clash against the Packers. And that's just shocking to me because if he's a young
Foolishness.
franchise quarterback, why would you risk him in this season?
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. Honestly, I am surprised that they're putting that out there, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just weird. Maybe they're just trying to get people to show up to the game.
Could
Uh,
be smoke.
could be smoke, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying we have to go with the Pack here, but I do think the Packers win this game. I know that they don't have really anything to play. Well, I guess they're not totally out yet, but besides just dominating the Bears, I mean, the Bears have been a bet on team for a couple of weeks, but last week we were on them without Fields and we were against them without Fields. I feel the same way. The defense is still bad. Now they got no Eddie Jackson, no Mooney. I don't know. Even if Fields played, I don't know if they could keep up with this team, to be honest with you.
Mhm. I mean, I definitely think that if Fields is confirmed out, there's value on the Packers here at this number.
Yep.
But the only thing that gives me some slight pause is the Packers' run defense still ranked dead last. And to go on the road and lay points with that bad of a run defense is difficult.
Okay. Let's stay away for now. We can talk about it if we need some extra ones. Let's go to the next one. The Browns going to the Texans. So the Browns open as a 6.5-point favorite with a 45-point total. It's 7 points now for the Browns on the road at Houston, 47-point total. Here's the game we were talking about, the Watson return game. He's going to be rusty, but I don't know, man. This Texans team has been weird this year. They have covered some numbers for us, or at least we've talked about it. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't trust them in this spot. I think 7's a big number, of course, for the Browns, but I don't see them stopping this run game. Houston's so bad against the run. I mean, so I'd have to go Browns or pass for me, buddy.
Yeah, 100%. I have zero interest in betting on the Texans. It's going to take a lot for me to put my money behind them the rest of the season, in fact, because going from Davis Mills to I don't even. Yes, Allen, thank you, is obviously a downgrade. And Damian Pierce has fallen off a little bit as well, the running back.
Yep.
And on the other side, I don't see how there's any way that they're going to be able to stop the Browns rushing attack. And I expect that Deshaun Watson is going to get some of those carries too. So I think that the Browns are going to be primed to put up a ton of points in this game. And I like them laying 7.
Well, the Browns offense hasn't been that bad with Brissett. I mean, assuming Watson can still throw the ball a little bit, I mean, they're going to score a lot of points. I don't, I don't know. I mean, maybe Houston puts up some points, but are you considering putting this to yellow or we stay away?
Yeah, I would consider the Browns. You?
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
I picked up Watson and the Browns defense in one of my same fantasy teams. I'm all in on that game. You got to, I'm sure Chubb's rushing prop is like 85 yards or something, but
I bet it's going to be triple digits.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, next big game in the NFC East. You've got Washington going to the Giants. Washington opened as a 1-point favorite. They're up to 2.5 in the contest. The total's from 41 to 40 at the Giants here. So it's a little tough, man. I love the Commanders. We've talked about this for weeks. We've been all on them. Heineke, the way this defense is played. The Giants are descending. There's no question. Do you think it's just too many points? I mean, it's 2.5 is not a huge number. It's within the key number, but I do like the Commanders to win the game. I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous about the number.
There was some steam on Washington here on Tuesday. I think
Okay.
this number was like 1.5. Looks like
Mhm.
one on the opener,
Mhm.
and there was pretty widespread move to take this up to 2.5. And
Yep.
I heard some interesting tidbits doing some research on this game that Washington actually has a bye next week,
They
and
do.
this is a historically profitable spot with a team playing a divisional foe with the bye on deck. And I think when you add in looking at their game the following week, they actually go and play the Giants again
I
3 weeks
know.
from now. So you have a Washington team who is 100% focused on one opponent,
Yep.
whereas the Giants are doing some homework on their next week's opponent. And I think that is going to be a huge factor in this game. And I'd like Washington, to be honest.
Okay. I like Washington. We can definitely put a yellow on there. I do. I really don't understand the scheduling spot. I mean, it makes no sense for, really the Giants, I guess. You're playing the same team within 3 weeks and you get the team without a bye in between. I don't know if this ever
Mhm.
happened before. It's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. But I do think that, the Giants, you can see it. Saquon's definitely not playing as good and the defense is starting to crumble. But okay, let's put a yellow on there. I can be talked into the Washington. I mean, love Washington, so.
Yep.
Okay, Jags going to the Lions. Jags open as a pick on the road at the Lions. The total is 51. Now the Jags are favored by one on the road, total of 51. Look, this is a really interesting game. I mean, neither team is going anywhere. I don't think, obviously, this year. It's more of a future game. The Jags, it's what you believe. Both, I mean, Detroit's been playing well. We know this. They've covered, what, 4 or 5 in a row? They should have probably even won last week. The Jags finally got off the schneid and looked pretty good against Baltimore. Is that enough to get them going, or are you all over the Lions on the spot?
I like the Lions in this game. I know that we've seen some early week movement towards the Jacksonville side, but I think that Detroit is playing equally as good as this team. I think both offenses are likely going to have some success in this one. The Lions defense is obviously not good, 26th
Right.
ranked, but the Jacksonville defense is no much better, only at 24th. And that Detroit offense has been scoring against almost all opponents this season. So I think that catching a point here at home is kind of valuable. I don't agree with the line move.
Okay. It's tough for me, man. It's going to be a great game to watch. It's going to be fun. I don't think either defense is that great. I know the Jags started off pretty good, but I don't think they're playing as good now.
Hmm.
So let's stay away for now. I know
Okay.
you got your Lions jersey underneath that sweatshirt. Or you got to look. It's a quarter zip. Quarter zip. You're like
Yeah. Yeah.
Manning brothers. Um, let's go to the next game. We got the Titans and the Eagles. Uh, Eagles open as a 6-point favorite at home. I'm assuming it's a favorite. 44-point total. They're down to 4.5 in the contest. 44.5-point total. So I'm not sure if that's an accurate line move. I mean, it's just because what could be said. I had the opener at 7, so that's true. Look, man, I don't know what to believe. The Eagles, obviously, we know they started off gangbusters and they're totally cooling off. The defense isn't playing so good. But the Titans also are one of these, the favorite. You haven't used this term this year, paper tiger. It's
Paper
your favorite.
Tiger.
It's your favorite. I got to make a paper tiger and bring it up, show it every time. Um, so anyway, I'd be on the Eagles, dude. I know the move is to the Titans. I understand that it's Vrabel, it's the guy, but 4.5 is a little short. I make this number way higher. So unless there's an injury I need to know about, I'd be all over the Eagles here.
Well, I mean, there are some injuries. They're starting to add up for the Eagles on the defensive side of the football. Gardner
Mhm.
Johnson hitting the injury report this week, and add that to the defensive tackle
Yeah.
Jenkins,
Mhm.
it's some J
Yeah.
name. They brought in Sue and the other veteran, but I don't know that they are on the quite the same level. And now you have the number one rushing offense that's coming to town. And so I think that could be a little bit tricky for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. with Derrick Henry coming in. And I think that's the reason that you've seen this move go down to 4.5. I'm not sure that I can get on the side of the Eagles here. I would probably have a lean to the Titans, but I would be okay passing as well.
Yeah, let's just pass. I mean, it's the descent of the Eagles. The other thing about the Eagles early in the season, the record, I mean, the opponents were chumps, right? They didn't play
Yeah.
anybody tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they played the Minnesota in what, week 2 or something. They played the Cowboys without Dak, so
Yeah.
they haven't really played anybody yet. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's why the move's there. Let's stay away from that spot.
Okay.
Next game is the Steelers against the Falcons. The Falcons open as a 2-point favorite at home, and now they're down to a 1-point dog in the contest. The total went from 42.5 down to 42. I do agree with the move. I think the Steelers are probably the better team now. It's just the Falcons, man. This team always seems to be hanging around in certain games. I'm not sure this is the game. They're not a big dog, and they are at home. But I do like the way that the Steelers are playing better offense and the defense is coming back. So I could get on board with the Steelers here.
Yeah, make that too. I think the Steelers are probably my favorite pick this week. They're obviously showing some momentum coming off of the Monday Night Football win. They've got TJ Watt back on the defensive line, and they have a number 8 ranked rush defense, which is imperative when you're going up against the Falcons. And I think another reason that you've seen some money come in on the Steelers, not only last week, but again early this week, is they have the number 1 ranked strength of schedule, most difficult faced this year. And so a lot of their metrics are a little bit jaded because of that. So couple that with the fact that Pickett and Pickens are definitely trending upwardly, I think that's a good reason to back the Steelers here.
Yeah, there we go. Picking to Pickett. Don't forget about Freiermuth. I like Freiermuth too. I like that type. All right, a couple more in the 1 o'clock window. We've got the Broncos going to the Ravens. The Ravens open as a 9-point favorite at home, 38.5-point total. It's up to 39.5 as the total, and then 8.5 in the contest. This is a tough one, man. The Broncos suck. I mean, they sucked again last week. We obviously, did we pick against them? We should have.
No, it was Carolina. That's why.
Oh, right. We should have. Carolina beat them down. But the Ravens, 8.5? This is way too big of a line. They can't cover against anybody, can they? I mean, have they covered that much this season? It feels like, the Broncos stink. They can't score. Nobody cares about what's his name? What's the coach's name? Hackett. He's
Hackett.
the worst.
Can't hack
He is
it.
the worst coach by far. You got, let's ride, Wilson. Like, listen, brother, like, come on, your team sucks. So I just can't get on board with that. That's too big of a number for Ravens, even against the Broncos for me.
You're right. Baltimore 4-6-1 against the number this season, but not to be outdone by the 3-8 Denver Broncos. So,
which is also their record.
That's ironic. I mean, I think you're right. I have Denver is another team that is on my do not bet list. So I'm definitely not going on that side. But I do agree with you that the number looks to be a touch inflated. And it does seem like a situation where the Baltimore Ravens could let in yet another opponent into the back door.
Right. And I don't want that. Can't do that. No backdoor. All right. The last one in the 1 o'clock window is the New York Jets going to the Vikings. Vikings open as a 3-point favorite at home, 42-point total. It's up to 44.5. And it's still the same spread, 3 in the contest at home. They kind of get a little mini bye, I guess you could say, right? Playing on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing, AFC East opponents back to back. Am I stupid to think the Jets are a better team than the Vikings?
No, I think I have Minnesota half a point better on a neutral. Okay. Give them probably 2.5 for home field, one of the stronger home fields in the league, and you get pretty close to 3, I'll admit. Yeah. And also, we can do a direct comparison to the line from Thanksgiving when the Patriots came to town and they were also catching 3. Mm-hmm. So I guess you got to kind of ask yourself, how do you rate the Jets compared to the Patriots right now to see if there's value here? Can tell you what
I mean, Mike White is an upgrade over Wilson. We already saw that even against the bad.
Yeah.
Now, Minnesota's
Mhm.
defense sucks. I mean, what are they, 28th, 29th? They're
23rd.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're bad. So it's not like they're facing, whatever, the 49ers or something here. The thing I guess I would say is, and I think it's about the Jets defense. Can the Jets defense slow down and really not stop the Vikings, but the total tells you a lot here. This is a Vikings offense that can score a lot of points. So, it's kind of like, can the Jets keep up? I guess is what I'm trying to say. And to me, if the Jets can play the way they played at Green Bay, the way they played at the Broncos, even at the Patriots, they play that kind of game, they can win this game, outright.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure. I mean, they played good against the Bears, but the Bears were terrible. So, um, I don't know. I'd be inclined. I mean, I guess bottom line is I'm Jets or pass here. I'm not going to take
Yeah.
the Vikings here, but I don't know if we put it in the contest or not.
100% agree with that statement. I agree. I have no interest in the Vikings. The total, though, I think paints a picture that you just kind of led us to, because opened at 42. You've now seen a ton of money come in on the total. There's a 45 at Pinnacle, 44 and a half in other places. So I think that bettors are looking at a higher scoring game, which may
Mhm.
lend a little bit less value to the dog here. So
Right.
I think we should highlight the Jets, though, maybe come back to them, because I do think that defensively they are capable of stopping the Vikings. And of course, Sauce Gardner is one of the best DBs in the league. You need a weapon like that to take away Jefferson.
Yeah, that'll be a great matchup to watch on Sunday. The only other thing we have to mention, of course, it's the 1 o'clock window. It's the,
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins window. So
right.
whatever. Okay, let's go to the 4 o'clock window, and let's just say most of these games are really pretty fun. Let's start with the first one. You got the Dolphins going to the 49ers. The 49ers open as a 4-point favorite. It's still 4 points in the market. I've seen that fluctuate. It's gone down and up on that one. 46-point total up to 46 and a half. This is a classic matchup, defense versus offense, right? You get this amazing offense that's been rolling points, I've heard that they've averaged in the last 8 games 23 points or 22 points in the first half, the last 8 games. 49ers, obviously, they haven't given up, I don't think, any points in the last 4 games in the second half. So I'm inclined to take San Francisco, even though 4 points is not a great number, mainly because the Dolphins haven't played anybody for like weeks.
Mhm.
But those injuries kind of give me some pause because they're going to have to score. 49ers have to score 21 points to win this game. That's the way I look at it. If they can't score 21, they're going to lose. Maybe be 24-21. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I lean to the Niners side, maybe not quite as strongly as you
Mhm.
do, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Yeah.
Another total that you've seen tick up a little bit, 46 to 46 and a half, mostly in the market. And I agree with that move. I think that both sides are going to be able to put some points on the board,
Hmm.
despite San Francisco's blanking last week of New Orleans.
Right.
I think Miami's capable of scoring on them. So the question is, do you think that Jimmy G is going to be able to outduel Tua and outscore them by 4+? And I'm not so certain of that.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think what's Miami's run defense? Because it's going to be a lot more running and pass out of the backfield to me.
Hmm.
Although I thought the Dolphins were bad in the secondary.
12th ranked rush defense for the Dolphins, and they're 5th ranked when you look at the defensive line metrics, adjusted line yards.
Right. In their pass D.
Pass D is a little worse, 25th ranked.
Yeah. Man, this is a game where you got to have like Debo and Ayuk go off, and it's Jimmy G. He doesn't throw outside the numbers. It's really he's a weird quarterback. He throws right in front of him every time. Shoot, shoot, just right in front of him, crossing routes, slants all day long. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy to stay away and watch the game action and see what happens. I just feel like 4 might be a bad number. I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's going to be they're going to score more than 46 and a half though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game, and I just have a hard time laying 4 in a game that I think is going to be relatively close.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Stay away.
Okay.
All right, here we go. The Seahawks going to the Rams. I don't know when this number was pulled, but the Rams or Seahawks open as a 4.5 point favorite. It's up to 7 now in the contest. 41.5 point total down to 41. Stafford is, you said, out. That's probably a big part of the move here. Perkins was okay. He was running around, but he's not enough. But the Seahawks defense looked so bad last week, man. I mean,
Hmm.
hard to back this team. I wanted to see a good performance, right, against the Raiders. Raiders are a much better offense than the Rams, no question. But the Seahawks did put up some points, but so I guess it favors the Seahawks, but it's just a low total game for such a big favorite.
Yeah. I should revise. I'm reading now doubtful for
Hmm.
Stafford. So, I mean, close, but
Yeah, boy.
uh, definitely something that I want to watch because I think that if Stafford is out for certain, I like the Seattle side in this game
Yeah.
because I was not impressed with Perkins last week against Kansas City. And despite Seattle's poor play last week defensively, I think that they'll be able to stop the Rams because remember, Cup is still out and Allen
Yep,
Robinson is now out for the season. So, I mean, they just are devoid of weapons on that side of the ball.
they are. They're terrible. Got to be the worst repeat, like the worst
Yeah,
defending champion ever in the Super Bowl era. Okay, I mean, are you thinking this is a contest pick though?
I would consider them in the context. I think it would be somewhat
Contrarian?
contrarian. Also, I
Yeah.
don't see a lot of people lining up to lay 7 points with Seattle.
No, I don't see that, especially after last week. All right, we'll put it on there for the contrarian. I know
All
we got to
right.
make up some picks somehow, right? Okay, next game. This is probably the best game of the weekend. It's Kansas City going to the Bengals. Rematch of last year, not just during the season, but also the AFC Championship game. But the Bengals are the host here. So Chiefs open as a 2.5 point favorite on the road, 52 point total. It's now to 2 in the contest with a 53 point total. This is tough, man. Okay, Jimmy Wegs' narrative says Kansas City wins the game because they're doing the revenge spot. They figured out how to play against the Bengals defense.
Hmm.
But numbers tell me to take Cincinnati. They're better in my metrics, and you're getting points at home. So I'm thinking the Bengals here, dude.
Yeah, I think that I'm with you on that. Um, I make the spread on a neutral 3.5, and so I mean,
Mhm.
probably the number seems to be about right. But just looking back the last several games, the Bengals have really found something. They've
Yeah.
now covered three in a row, and like 8 out of the last 9. So I think Cincinnati is really rounding into form, and they have figured out how to attack that cover 2 defense that has given the league fits this season. And so the running game is going well also, and I think that if you're going to attack this Kansas City defense, that's the one way to do it is running the football. So I think that the Bengals are going to be able to have some success against them.
I mean, Chase, I'm reading that his limited practice, so he obviously helped them quite a bit.
Yeah,
I'm sure he really wants to play in this game. They're limiting his reps in practice, but yeah. So I guess let's put at least a yellow on the Bengals. I mean,
yeah.
it's going to be a great game, great football game. Hopefully, one of the better ones we've seen this year. Not a blowout like the Dallas Minnesota game or something like that.
My only concern is if the news comes out that Chase is playing for
Yeah,
whatever reason, you're going to see like everyone in the contest on the Bengals, and the number will
yeah,
probably crash through 3 as well.
yeah, yeah.
But
Well, you mean crash? Oh, but down
yeah.
through three? Because
Oh wait.
oh,
Oh wow.
we're getting points
Sorry.
in this game, buddy.
Yeah, I misread that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking the Bengals are favored by 2. I like it even more.
No, no, that's what I was saying. Like when you were saying that there, I've got like on a neutral, there's like maybe 1 point. There should be
Yeah.
favored by one
Yeah.
point. I got them like 1.5, like 2.5 to 3 favored in this game. So there's definitely some value in that to me.
All right, let's lock in the Bengals. I'm making them green.
All right, Greeny, let's go. All right, last 4 o'clock game, you got the Chargers against the Raiders. The Chargers open as a 1 point favorite on the road, 49 point total. The total's up to 50.5 with a 1 point. Now the Raiders are favored. Seems like everybody's on the Raiders right now, dude. What's going on? What's happening here? I mean, 2 weeks ago, this team was terrible. Now all of a sudden they're playing good. I mean, they've won some tough games. I know the Chargers aren't playing great. Um, Everybody in Beeston is all over the Raiders here. It scares me a little bit. It's like, let me just put that out there. But would you be on the Raiders in this set?
Yeah, yeah. It's mostly just to do with the Chargers' terrible run defense.
Right.
29th ranked against the run and 28 when you adjust for line yards defensively. And Josh Jacobs is running like a man possessed right now.
He is.
The Raiders are number 4 running the football and number 1 at adjusted offensive line yards. And I think that the Chargers are going to be in a world of hurt this weekend with Josh Jacobs running the rock. My only pause is that the Raiders have now played 2 straight weeks of pretty long overtime games.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that is going to catch up to them at some point. So honestly, I probably would like the Raiders a lot more in the first half in this game,
Mm-hmm.
but I would still consider them for the contest if we could be convinced collectively.
Okay. Well, let's put it as a yellow. We
Okay.
consider it. I liked it better when they were the dogs,
Yeah.
honestly.
Mhm.
But it's basically a pick 'em now. So, all right.
Yeah, that number has bounced around wildly all week. I think it was up close to 3 at one point before that wave of Raider money came in.
No, I know. It's weird. Okay, so Sunday night game. Boy, your Colts are getting all the primetime action now. I hope you like that
Unfortunately.
action. The
Jeff,
Colts.
Sunday night.
It's what is up? The Colts are playing the Cowboys. They obviously coming off a short week. I guess this gives a little bit of rest for the evening. The Cowboys open as a 10.5 point favorite. It's 10.5 in the contest. The total's 43 up to 44.5. I like the Cowboys here. No jokes here. I do love the Cowboys. I've got them actually as a bigger favorite. Man, that's a lot of points, man. 10.5. I mean, can the Colts play good defense for a little bit and shock the world? I don't think they can. I think Matt Ryan's going to get destroyed in this game. But 10.5. I mean, there were a couple of big covers last week, right? The Chiefs covered and the Dolphins covered big numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider getting on board the Cowboys, or just too much for you?
Yeah, I would. I think this is a huge mismatch between the Cowboys defense and the Colts offense. I'm just looking at the DVOA numbers right now, and the Colts are still 31st or 32nd in every offensive category.
Right.
And the Dallas Cowboys are number 1 in almost every defensive category.
Yeah.
So I just don't see how the Colts offense is going to be able to score much against this outfit. And on the other side, I think despite the Colts' mediocre defense, that Pollard is really Pollard and Elliott. They have now figured out how they mesh together. Elliott's kind of like the goal line touchdown vulture, and Pollard is catching balls out of the backfield and running wild. So I think the Cowboys can definitely cover this number.
Let's go green, man. Let's go all in on this one. I don't think it's going to be a highly picked game because the 10.5. And so if we're on it, it's in my picks in terms of index picks. So I like it a lot.
I was really hoping to see a 10. I set an alert on my app for 10s and one popped up today and I nabbed it, but that didn't last very quickly. So
yeah, good shot. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Bet online.
All right. Monday night, we've got another exciting one. The Saints are going to the Bucks. The Bucks open as a 6-point favorite at home. Now they're down to 3.5. Total from 40 to 40.5. So I don't know, man. We've talked about this over the last couple of years. The Saints do own the Bucks for some reason in this matchup, mainly because of that defensive line, I guess. Now you got the injury to Wirfs. Not sure if he's going to be out of this game, but I don't like this game at all. I want to stay as far away from it as possible because my numbers tell me the Bucks should win this game pretty easily, but the Saints always defy us when they do this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Tampa did get the cover in game 1 this year, right?
Oh, did they?
If I recall.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. They did.
Look. But I'm with you totally. I want no part of this game either. I think the number is pretty right on now, 3.5. And while I respect the Saints move, probably for various reasons, I think Wirfs is a big factor in that too. And I think historically, a team coming off of a shutout is very profitable too. So I mean, you're going to see an inflated number, which I think a lot of people thought the 6 was on open, and they nabbed it up. So.
Yep. Also, maybe the total being low because of that shutout, right? So we'll see. Let's stay away.
Yeah. Okay.
let's review some of the picks and see if we need to augment, but I think we're doing okay. We got the Browns -7 at Houston with the return of Watson. We've got the Commanders at the Giants, laying 2.5 on the road. The Steelers weighing a short 1 on the road at the Falcons. The Jets getting 3 points at the Vikings. Seattle laying 7 at the Rams. The Bengals getting 2 against the Chiefs in that big marquee matchup. We got a lot of picks this week.
Yeah.
The Raiders -1 at home against the Chargers, and then the Cowboys laying the wood -10.5 against the Colts on Sunday night. So again, a lot of favorites, but there are a couple of dogs there to keep that in mind for our picks in the final. Well, let's talk about the Circa Million. We went 3-2 last week, pretty solid. We're at like 54%, 1,369th place, which is whatever. It's top third or something. But I noted, I went back to look at the annals. We have exactly the same points as last year, Action. Isn't that weird?
Funny. Yeah.
Funny because I kind of felt like we had a little swoon here in the middle part of the season. So we got that makes me feel better. Like I thought we didn't do as well. Oh no, we're doing just like we always do. So maybe we can do a little better down the stretch like we did last year. The top dog's coming back to us a little bit at 70%, 71%. At 40, basically 42.5. And then the top 100, which is actually the top 68 with ties, is at 63%. So they're at 38. So we're only 5.5 back from the money. So we still got a good shot with about 6 weeks to go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like that we're rounding it to form. I mean, we could have easily gone 5-0 last week. We had 2 3.5-point favorites that went to overtime. And ironically, both of them had touchdowns scored against them. If those touchdowns had gone the other way, obviously we would have covered and gone 5-0. So we got it in us.
Get that 5-0. Let's do it. All right. Well, let's talk about the World Cup now. We're in the knockout round. There is one more, I guess tomorrow there's one more round of pool play to get the last 2 slots, or I guess the last 2 games set. So we've got 14. Wait. Is that right?
12 teams qualified so far. Yeah.
12 teams qualified, including the U.S. So talk about the strategies and teams you like in this round and how it changes from pool play to the knockout.
Well, I mean, I think you're onto something there. It's just a totally different ball game now when you go from the group phase down to the knockouts, because teams can afford a loss, which we saw with Argentina in game 1, and we saw with Germany, who that cost them, and even Spain lost a game today and still advanced. So now it's all the marbles going into the knockout phase, and I think you're going to see a lot of managers that are putting out their best lineups game in and game out, which they didn't necessarily do in the group phase.
Right. Are some of the teams that you liked, for example, you got Japan getting out, they've got an interesting matchup. Do you like those teams in the knockout round, or you just totally abandon all that stuff what they did in the pool play and reset it?
Well, it kind of depends on the matchup. I mean, me personally, I'm going to be looking at some of the matchups here. I unfortunately really like Morocco as well, who is Japan's opponent. And so in that particular game, I think that I'm going to be siding with the Moroccans.
Just to correct you, Action, they're playing Croatia, Japan.
Oh, my bad.
I got Morocco playing Spain.
That's right. Yes, thank you. Morocco did end up topping the group, so that flipped. I do like Morocco against Spain, though, since we're on the subject. That's one game I'm definitely going to look hard at. I think that the USA team has a really fighter's chance against the Netherlands on Saturday.
Yep.
Because they have that trio of midfielders between Musa and Tyler Adams and McKennie, who have just been dominating all of their opponents. We saw them go toe-to-toe with England, and I think that England's a better side than the Netherlands right now. So I did bet USA on a pick'em line, which is +0 at +225.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. And then some of these other matchups, I mean, I know France is a pretty good team. The Poles are going to take those guys on.
Yep.
England matches up with Senegal. Now, do you think England, who maybe didn't struggle I wouldn't say struggle, but they didn't dominate the pool. Do you think this is when they kind of stretch out and kind of take care of business?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Senegal was fairly lucky to advance against Ecuador on the last day. And they're obviously without their number 1 striker, Sadio Mane. So I think in particular, they're going to match up well against Senegal. I think another angle that you definitely need to be aware of going into the knockout phase is that you are going to see a lot tighter games for the most part too. I think I'm going to be targeting unders more frequently than overs,
Right.
with a few lone exceptions like France and Argentina specifically in the next round. I think they're going to run over their opponents. But a lot of these games, specifically early on in the first half, are going to be a little bit more cagey. So I'm going to be looking to play under 1 goal in the first half on a lot of occasions, and going under 2.5 in a lot of cases too.
So just, for me and the non-soccer people in the World Cup, when they get through full time or regular time, whatever, with the, whatever the added time, then they do play an overtime stretch.
Yes,
There's
that's
extra
right.
time. How much time does that normally?
So now we're into the knockout phase. There'll be the 90-minute game. And
Hmm.
then if the game is tied, they'll play 2 sessions of 15 minutes.
Okay.
And they play the full 30 minutes, regardless
Yeah.
if somebody's scoring or not. So if
Okay.
it goes into extra time, you're going to get an extra 30 minutes. And then there could be another 2 or 3 goals in that 30 minutes that end it.
Yeah.
Or if they're still tied, then they'll go on to the penalty shootout.
Right. And then when you bet, I mean, obviously you're betting whatever you're betting. If you're betting a money line, basically for them to win, if they win via shootout, you win your money, right? There's no exception for if they don't win in the extra time or something like that.
Good question. That's something you definitely want to be aware of, because if you go onto your app on the main page, typically when you're making those bets, that's going to be settled on 90 minutes
Okay.
plus the stoppage time, whether that's 4, 6,
Right.
or 12
Right.
in this tournament on occasion. So you want to be extra careful. If you want to make a bet on a team, you can look for what they say to advance. That just means globally they either win in normal time, they win in extra time, or in penalty shootouts. So that
Okay.
would be the to advance option. You can
Got it.
also get a little bit tricky, and a lot of books offer props. You can bet a team to win specifically in a PK shootout or
Mhm.
specifically in extra time.
Okay.
Those are going to be a little bit longer shots because the odds of that are lower. But
Right.
you just want to be careful when you make a bet on the main page. It's going to be settled at 90 minutes. So if you bet Argentina to win on the money line and they end up drawing and going to extra time, you're actually going to lose that bet.
Got it. Good to know. See, I knew I had to bring that up. The last thing is for you, and I know you've been watching some of the games. Are you doing live betting here, or are you
Yeah.
just watch? Are you doing pre-flop? Okay. So talk
Uh,
to us how you're doing that right now.
Mostly pre-flop, but as I get into the knockout stages here, I'm going to be a little bit more focused, certainly on the weekend for these games, and you can get a sense of how the game is going to. I think was it this afternoon when Germany and Costa Rica were playing. Germany was obviously getting a million chances, and they
Mhm.
went down 2-1. I was already pretty heavily invested in that game, so I didn't jump in, but it could have been an opportune time to get in and bet on Germany live. You could either bet them at pick'em, so
Mhm.
that if they drew, it would be a push, or you could have probably gotten a pretty decent number at them to win that game, which they did come back to win 4-2.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of goals scored late in that game. So,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, you could get a sense of the match too. Like if you're a totals better and you feel like it's going to break out, if they're running up and down the pitch on either side, you could look at a live over too. I know a lot of soccer bettors that will bet under. Mike Palm at VSIN
Mhm.
loves betting pre-flop under 2.5. And then if the game starts out slow in the first half, then he'll go over 1.5 to try to
Mhm.
lock in that middle in some
Yeah, get the
cases.
middle. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Well, good. And you and Night Range have been bouncing some texts around. Thanks for making me part of the text chain. I'm learning some stuff.
Yeah,
But
nice.
I'm definitely getting in on the knockout round. So
Great.
exciting stuff. Okay, great. Well, next week we'll figure out the schedule. I do have this Christmas party thing and stuff we got to figure out, so we might have to do a different time.
Okay.
But thanks for listening to us. Follow us at the Side Action Pod on Twitter and at Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Wegs on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right. Well, enjoy all the various types of football out there.